I'm so excited you're here. Thank you for coming on. Um,
Thanks for inviting me.
no worries. So I'm going to say straight off the bat, I might get things wrong. Gemma might get things wrong. This is Gemma, or whatever side.
Hello.
And I'm sorry if I do that. And I'm here to learn, educate others, start a conversation, all of it.
Absolutely. I get things wrong too. So, yeah. It's about the spirit in which we're having a conversation, isn't it, more than anything else?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I also wanted to say the same as Kira said. And just thank you for taking the time to talk to us, and for already, like, before we've even done it, you've been really like open and keen to talk with us. And I can imagine that some of the things, some of the topics are maybe things that have been difficult for you. And so we really appreciate you taking the time to talk with us. And I'm excited.
It's an absolute pleasure. I'm feeling lots of imposter syndrome right now. but I'm really happy to be here and really glad to be involved. Thank you for inviting me.
Okay, firstly, we wondered if you could tell us about your family and the situation that you had your children in.
Yeah, sure. So me and my partner, Raven, got married and had kids super, super, super early. We both came from kind of Catholic families, and having kids seemed like the next step after getting married. And we weren't really planners, so we just kind of like leapt into it. We actually started out living with Raven's mum down in Cornwall when our first baby, Robin, now 21, when she arrived. We were in our early 20s, and Raven's dad had just died. So we thought it'd be a really good idea to move back in with mum and make sure mum was okay. It wasn't such a good idea. Moving in with parents again is really hard. So that lasted about a year, but it meant that Robin was born down in Cornwall, near Mevagissey. We moved back up to Sheffield after that. That's where where Raven had studied. I'd studied in Manchester, but we both really felt we wanted to settle in the north. So yeah, we planted ourselves in Sheffield. Number two came along about 3 years later. Niels, that's our youngest. He's now 17. So they're pretty much adults now, really. It's pretty much a house of 4 adults.
I wanted to just take just going deep into the conversation. So what's been on my mind is getting married young. How old were you when you got married?
Oh, that's a question. We got married in 1999. I was born in 74. So I was 25. Raven was 23. There we go.
Nice. And when the kids came along, back then you were dad.
Mm-hmm.
And
yep, that's right.
I wondered, for you, being a parent, becoming a dad, was there any like internal conflict going on? And what I'm referring to is these days you see a lot of toxic masculinity where men are, expected to just be men, whatever that means, and not show feelings and not, God forbid, talk about your feelings and show any weakness in inverted commas, because showing emotion is not weak at all. But that's been going around in my head a lot lately about toxic masculinity and how I obviously want that not to be a thing. And I wondered what it was like for you in that situation where you've got a little baby or, a couple of kids, and what that felt like for you.
So I was never very good at being a man, whatever that meant. I didn't really fit in with the other boys at school for reasons we might get into. But So I've always been like really open, really possibly even too much talking about my feelings. So I don't think that was as much of a thing. And we've had a really good relationship from the off, really. I mean, we met at school, so we were teenagers when we met. But we were always really, really good at communicating and sort of talking about how we were feeling and what was going on and stuff. I think when the family started, the one sort of pressure that I did fall into was of being the provider. And I cringe at this now. I mean, when you're in your early 20s, you're literally still a kid, really. And I think like a lot of the models of how to do family, because especially when you're super young, like it's much easier to follow models than to really think through from scratch exactly how you want to do this stuff. And yeah, I fell really firmly into like, I'm providing, I don't want Raven to have a crappy job. I'm gonna, you know, I'm gonna sort of bring in the money. But looking back, that's definitely been one of the things we've unpicked, because I reckon for the first sort of half of our relationship to our 30s, that dynamic kind of is trapping for a mum, for a woman, like not being able, or not being encouraged to just go out and do it, because like there's this perception that, you've got to get like a good job, or, don't. Yeah, I don't know if that makes any sense. But I think, that was definitely an issue.
Yeah, I was going to actually ask that about like traditional gender roles. So that was probably possibly the one thing that was kind of traditional in that sense, that you went out, you were the breadwinner, and your partner stayed at home.
When you started drumming,
Mm-hmm.
what age did you begin?
About 14 or 15.
Okay.
At school.
And do you feel that your the way that you feel as a drummer has changed from that time to now as a trans woman?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh.
But also there was a huge gap, because I started drumming in school, and I was kind of like encouraged along by boys a year or two ahead of me who had drum kits. I thought that's really cool, and I wanted to try that too. So yeah, starting off, I definitely kind of nobody sort of stopped me doing it. Mum bought me a drum kit, and my sister got a violin. There was never any problem sort of drumming as a kid. But I think I had a pretty boring time drumming through university. I ended up doing a lot of kind of cover bands and functions. I just got really, really bored of it. And also I think it just didn't quite feel like the right kind of instrument. I don't want to rewrite history, but it could well be that part of that was I just didn't see myself as that kind of bloke playing that blokey instrument. And I'm again cringing at how much my perspective's shifted in the 20 years. When I got back into it, I transitioned, at least sort of socially, and it was actually coming across Annika Nillis on YouTube that made me think, oh my god, oh wow. And just loving that power that I saw there, really. So I started drumming again as fully as the gender that I am today. And it's difficult to say how I've approached it differently. I think I've been much broader, but that's also probably age too. Probably more age than anything else. Like back then I was a bit more picky about the sort of music I'd play, whereas now I love everything and I draw inspiration from all over the place. So probably age.
That's amazing. So do you think you getting back into drumming and you transitioning was like pretty same time, or you were waiting?
Not really. Not really. Transitioning sort of started from early 30s.
Okay.
I got my first drum kit as a grown-up, probably when I was about 40, 41.
Okay.
So I pretty much had everything figured out, I think. Um,
Can you tell us a little bit more about that time in your 30s and how that came to be, and as a family, how that was?
Sure thing. So one of the things is, I think it's sort of, this goes back a lot more to kind of when I was a kid. I did music GCSE, but I dropped it at A level because I just assumed I wasn't good enough. I'd been taught in a kind of classical way by my mum, and I hated classical piano lessons and violin lessons that I used to have. And I just assumed I would need grades and I'd need to do that whole classical approach, and I kind of dropped out. I now know that there's all sorts of other approaches into sort of music and the music industry, but didn't know that back then. So I was interested in the arts, but I got more into kind of arts admin. I did sort of theatre at A level, and I went on to do a theatre degree, but I was aiming all the time for like arts administration, fundraising, project management, that sort of thing. Just assumed that I wasn't a performer. I wasn't a performance person. But I think through my 30s, I just found that sort of admin and sort of marketing and fundraising work very, I don't know, it just wasn't feeding me. If there's a lot of pressure, didn't enjoy it terribly. And during my 30s, I started to get this worse and worse and worse depression. So I kind of had this whole mental health journey through my 30s that kind of coincided with figuring gender stuff out. And I don't really know that they were necessarily related. I think the mental health stuff would have been something to get through anyway, but certainly it did lead to this kind of much deeper figuring out, trying to figure out who I am, what I need, that sort of stuff. And I think 5 or 10 years later, I was, recognizing I'd had some therapy and some coaching, recognizing that no, music is really, really important. I'd be in tears to my coach when I was talking about it in sort of coaching sessions. There was this really, when I tried to imagine it, there was this really kind of emotional gut punch I'd always get. So I've been kind of trying to navigate back towards that really since. But yeah, so I think they sort of happened in parallel. There was kind of recognizing that I was a musician and also understanding that I was a woman. And starting to transition in my 30s and learning loads of language, and because I had a sheltered upbringing. I was very ignorant about all of this stuff.
Wow.
Yeah, I should probably pause for questions because I'm starting to ramble.
No,
not at all. It's just, I find it's really fascinating, and I find it's just really interesting to hear, because think you've got a lot of interesting stuff to tell. I wondered, would you mind telling us about how Raven dealt with that, and also your children, how you dealt with that as a family?
Yeah, it's not a very exciting story. Well, maybe it is. Raven also came out around that time. So Raven was coming out as like initially bisexual and then later genderqueer. So Raven actually came out as bisexual a little bit before I kind of joined the dots. So Raven was terrified when they came out as bisexual because they were thinking, how will this affect the marriage and stuff? And it, the spoiler is that it really didn't. And so, but it meant that for me, sort of gradually getting to grips with gender, there wasn't really any worry that it would sort of affect our relationship, because Raven had already come out as somebody who is sort of hearts, not parts. And so it felt very easy, really. There was a lot of talking that year. I think we both got sleep deprivation. We were about like 35 and 37 respectively, I think. And yeah, there was so much we sort of just talked about as we were both discovering stuff. So it was a really kind of talky time, and really, really good sort of discovering that stuff together. It was a non-issue to the kids. This is why it's not that exciting. In fact, they were like, "Yay!" And then they were just our biggest sort of supporters and fans, really.
Oh, that's lovely.
And kids don't seem to have a problem with switching pronouns either. It was just like that, just overnight. I still mess up, but our kids never have. So
That is just wonderful. Oh, love it. I mean, just like relationship goals, family
Yeah,
goals right there.
definitely.
we have often wondered, was there something that we twigged about each other when we were much, much younger? But again, like, it's always a bit dangerous to rewrite history with stuff that you learn later, isn't it? But it doesn't really
It
matter.
is,
We're
but
here
I
now.
still find that that's a lovely love story, that you're still together and you've just grown with each other and developed together, and I find that amazing.
Yeah, I do feel really lucky.
Wondering about parenting style or any changes that may have happened along with you transitioning. I mean, you were talking about you were the breadwinner, and did all of these things start to change? And did any other aspects of your being a parent change at all?
Yeah, I mean, some things I think were definitely related to gender sort of exploration, and other things perhaps more to do with age as well. I mean, on the kind of definite gender stuff, I always remember having a really, really hard time with kind of emotions before I started transitioning. I'm a pretty chill person, but you know how kids can really rile you. And I would just find myself getting so angry at things. And, luckily being together, we always had this thing where, one of us is like, if one of us flips our lid, then we just say to the other, I'm broken, I can't. And then we can swap and, tag team and stuff. But that was really, really, really hard. And I do remember getting cross with, particularly with Niels, around sort of potty training, and because it took him a while to figure it out, and Robin had found it really, really easy. And so, yeah, and it's kind of like when you're trying to get stuff done and, mess happens, it can be hard. And I did not handle that well when I was younger. And I hate that. I've spoken to Niels about it since, but yeah, I hate that I got shouty with like a 5-year-old for just not being able to pee. It wasn't his fault. That's I find my emotions much more easy to deal with now. They feel much more me. Plus, I think I've learned a lot about sort of anger management and, trying to keep it together and trying to maintain a bit of a kind of distance when your kids are winding you up. But yeah, there's definitely been that. But I think the other thing as well is I just feel like I'm able to be, like, I feel really good in this role of mum as a parent. I don't know, because I don't necessarily think that mums and dads should have different roles. We each play the same role. I think we should all be nurturers and we should all be workers and strivers and things. But I don't know, it's hard. There's something that feels a lot more me about being mum, whereas I always felt a bit weird as a dad. Just, yeah, I didn't really seem to do the same things that other dads did, and didn't really understand how to dad.
Was there like a pressure, do you think, from like other dads, like I don't even know what that means, to be honest.
No, and I
But
don't know, because I was never interested in other, in having friendships with guys. I don't know. All of my friends have always been sort of other mums, and yeah, so I don't really know. Maybe I didn't have a good enough sort of positive male role models in my life or something. That's a joke.
I'm going to ask a question sort of similar to what I asked you earlier, but this time about the way that people, or the way that you feel people perceive you as a drummer now to before. Has that changed?
It has a very little bit. I mean, bear in mind, I have not been operating as a professional drummer for very long. I just started getting paid gigs maybe a couple of years ago. And because most of my work is we're in an events band, we're very much the bookers and the liaisons and things. So it's not like I'm having to kind of work under a structure. We make our own structure and our own rules. So I haven't so much from that perspective. As a woman playing drums, yeah, I've had a little bit of funny stuff going on. I was at the UK drum show in, I want to say 2019. I think it was 2019. And I bought some stuff and somebody asked if that was for my boyfriend. And that was a surprise. And I was like, no, why would you think that? And then I started to put two and two together. So a little bit of stuff. But that was 2019 and probably a lot's changed since then.
Not sure.
Did you not reckon? So no, I've not had any nonsense in terms of like music industry stuff yet.
Good.
Hopefully you won't.
I hope not. But I'll be ready for it if I do anyway.
I don't condone violence. I just was shaking my fist for people who, well, you can't see us. So.
Power fist.
It was a power, not violence. I promise.
Mina, can you tell us a bit more about your band then at the moment and what you're doing as a player?
Sure. Okay. So it's a bit of a weird one, but I play for folk dance. I play in a ceilidh band. So ceilidhs, I mean, if you haven't come across it at all, it's a little bit like that dancing scene in the Titanic, kind of like folk music and very sort of rowdy dancing and stuff. It's so yeah, it's kind of like folk music based, but we basically have drums and we kind of punk it up. And I mean, I tend to bring a bit of a disco-y funk thing to it usually. So it doesn't necessarily sound like kind of diddly stuff. It's quite punchy and bouncy, but basically it's awesome because you have a caller who kind of like calls out very, very basic dances for the audience. So the dancers don't have to have had any experience before. And yeah, you basically have an evening of playing music for people to dance to. Goes down really well at birthdays and weddings, and especially for events where, most events, most people are new to it. It's really inclusive. It's not like a kind of disco where all of the kids are dancing at the wedding and the grandparents are sitting looking miserable in the sides. Everybody's up, everybody's all together. And so I really, really like it. I don't love some things about folk music. It can be a bit stuffy. My personal interests tend to lie more in kind of like fusion and pop and soul and that sort of stuff. But in terms of actually making money from playing drums, it's not a bad thing to do at all. A lot of fun.
So, and does that mean that you're out playing a lot of evenings, or is it just kind of weekends, or how does it work?
Well, it's been a funny one because we got going just about 6 months before the pandemic. Our first kind of proper gig was, so we haven't yet quite got into our swing even now. I'm probably gigging a couple of evenings a month on average at the moment, but it is gradually picking up, and I'm trying to push it to a point where I'm doing perhaps a couple of evenings a week in the future. So yeah, it will be a bit of moving around. Most of it's within about 100. I try and keep it to about 100, 150 mile radius, so it's not more than an hour and a half's drive.
Any goals for the future musically in terms of your drumming, and where do you see yourself in, I don't know, 5 years maybe?
I think I've got goals that I haven't quite joined the line between where I am now and where the goals are. Like, I would love to play some big stadiums in my career. I'm not in a rush, but when I'm ready and at the right moment, that would be amazing. I love playing in really big venues. I love the kind of, I don't know, the feeling of responsibility and power that you get. It's really intoxicating. So I'd love to do more of that. But I think with events playing that I'm doing at the moment, it's a little bit self-limited. So I need to kind of use that as a, what's the word? As a breadwinner, and try and start some other musical project that will help feed my musical soul, as it were. And I haven't figured that one out yet. I've got some ideas. I'm composing gradually. I suppose people I really look up to, people like Annika. I really love the way that, you know, she's kind of built her career primarily on kind of composing, and, you know, like doing her own stuff. That really, really appeals to me, rather than sort of. I mean, I'd like to do session drumming, but I do worry that playing other people's stuff rather than my stuff won't be as rewarding for me personally. But who knows? I'm not going to knock it until I try it.
Do your children play instruments or?
Robin's really good at the piano, but will only ever play to herself, which is a bit disappointing. But when she accidentally leaves her headphones off and plays through the speakers on the piano, it's amazing. And me and Raven just like sit really quiet in another room listening so that we won't put her off. So that's really good. But she's mostly self-taught. Niels loves music, and he's like, he knows what's going on. He's always discovering new stuff. I've tried getting him playing drums, and he's really, really good at them. You know, I mean, he was like within his first half an hour, he was trying to play drum and bass, and not actually doing that badly. You know, so he's got it, but he doesn't find it. He hasn't sort of found his motivation for music as a player yet. I'm going to start taking him along to get him doing a bit of sound engineering at gigs soon, and see if that's a way in for him. Because like Robin's got her career figured all out. Robin wants to be a dentist, and you know, she's been pursuing that since GCSE, like straight line to dentistry. Whereas Niels is more like I was, and more sort of like, oh, I'll just figure it out as I'm going along. So I feel like with Niels, he needs lots more like dropping him into experiences and seeing what sticks.
Nice.
Does Raven play anything?
No, Raven doesn't, and that's fine. It does mean that that's one thing we can't share that much. Like the way that I listen to music is really different to Raven. So, and I think Raven's felt sad about that sometimes. Like when we've been out at sort of folk festivals, and you know, I've been playing in sessions and things. And Raven always used to get out like crochet or knitting or something back in the day when we did that. But yeah, no, like they like listening to music, but they don't play.
I had a little question. When I was younger, when I started drumming, I wonder if Gemma felt the same, but I definitely had a little chip on my shoulder about being a female drummer, because it felt like I had to prove myself, and I had to work doubly hard as any of the boys to show that I was serious. And I don't know if that's real or if I imagined it, but it was definitely there. And I wonder if you had a similar experience at all, being a trans woman, of having to prove yourself as a drummer, or if you hopefully don't.
Yeah. I've been more self-limiting, I think. Like I didn't even try, which is on me and nobody else. Like I do remember when I was like a teenager and in bands, like I had a really, really different experience as a young guy drumming then. Like I just had to walk into an event with lots of other bands, and just the fact that I was carrying drums was like instant respect. I know that's a really, really different experience because I mainly play with other women now, and I know that's, you know, I know I had an extremely different experience, a much easier ride. And I think there's a contrast there, isn't there? Like I had an easy ride and I quit on myself, and you kind of like fought it all the way, and you knew you were going to do this, and so yeah, I don't love that I quit when I did when I was younger. Seems a shame, but I think that's always been my kind of thing that I've struggled with. I've just assumed that I'm not as good as anybody else. I don't really know where that comes from. Still figuring that one out. Like once depression kicks in, that's the reason for everything. Like you just, you know that you're rubbish. But before then, I wasn't depressed in my 20s and as a teen. So I don't know why I got into this pattern of just quitting and not fighting.
Do you still feel like that now with drums?
Yeah, I do a bit. It's a thing that I'm conscious of. I don't let it stop me now. I just kind of keep pushing. But yeah, I've definitely had a difficult time with social media. Like a lot of our inspiration is online, but there is so much inspiration and there are so many people that are so good. It's very easy to, to think I'm too old, or I don't see anybody that really looks like me doing what I do, and I'm not really wanted here.
Oh, Mina, these reasons why you should. I feel like this is a place for you.
Totally.
But I also, and I feel you, because I feel. Sorry, I'm just going to take back to what you were saying about when you started drums, Kira, because I feel like children. So I started when I was 10. So I was a bit younger than you kids, because you were
16.
Were you 16?
Yeah.
Right, I was 10. I remember my mum showed me a list of instruments I could learn at school, and she said, "Is there anything else you want to do?" Because I already played violin, and I said, "I want to play drums because no other girl in the school plays drums." And I saw that as my way of having an identity, and I went for it. And because I listened to lots of pop music, I found the beginning of drumming so easy, because I knew all those rhythms. I heard them, and I was really good. Like really quickly, I was really good. I didn't worry about the boys. I was just like, I'm the drummer here. I'm the one. And when I was a teenager, that changed, and then I really did feel like I had to prove myself. And I think that it is probably linked to that age, like adolescence. And and I'm the same. Like now, I've taken a break because of work and parenting, and I just feel completely overwhelmed as well with what's out there, the talent that's out there, also with where to even go, like with what to learn, what to practice. There's just so much, which is amazing, but it is also, can be overwhelming.
Yeah, I really feel that. Like, and so you've had a long break as well.
Yes.
It's hard. It's really hard.
Especially since, really basically since having my children. So like 5 and a bit years, and can't go on any longer.
Oh, but so you mean you can't not drum anymore? Is that what you're saying?
I feel like it's so, I feel like it's so linked to who I am that it's really, I can't get rid of it. It's not going to work like that. I can't keep having a break.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's really good that you've still got that. Like you need to do this. It's not going to let you off the hook.
Wow, no, but it sounds like, I mean, that's the same for you, where you said that you were talking in your coaching and your counselling, and you felt emotional about it as well. Then it is really, that's a part of who you are, and you can't just let it go.
No, that's right. I think we all want to have, when we do stuff like therapy, we're encouraged to like look at what we really want out of life. And I want to have a really good life that really represents who I am. And so, yeah, I definitely can't not do this. But I think one thing that's occurred to me is like, there's no model to follow. Like all the people that I look up to, have really, really different situations and contexts. And anyway, they've already done it that way. So somewhere out there, there's the thing that Gemma is going to do that only Gemma can do, and and the same for me as well. It's trying to find out what is that thing that I really need to do. But I'm really lucky to have had some lessons with Kira, and she's kind of got me focusing really on which parts of this make me the most joyful and trying to build it around that. And that's why I think for me, composing, because writing something from nothing and like getting in that amazing sort of space where you just can't stop listening over and thinking, oh my God, I did that. That's coming together. It sounds amazing. I love this. Yeah, there's joy in there. So that's, I guess, a compass. Let's follow that and see what happens.
Here. Absolutely. And I was thinking about this earlier on a little walk, about, how often we can compare ourselves to other people, and especially on social media. And I know I'm on social media quite a bit, like annoying, but you look at your idols and I just think, well, hold on, she's got 8 hours a day every day to play.
Yeah,
I don't have that. I might have 8 hours in a month or whatever, and I just think, and that's okay. It's that whole comparison is the thief of joy thing, and social media is really, it's hard not to be sucked into looking at that and thinking, oh, but where am I? And I don't know, it just made me feel a bit better about where I am in my journey, just to be like, well, listen, I'm parenting and teaching, and I'm just trying to do what I can. And I think that's all we can do, right? It's just
you're a full-time teacher. You're running a couple of podcasts. There's Drum Education Live as well. You do. I look at you and feel exhausted. So
can you see these bags under my eyes? These are real.
No,
my bags are bigger than your bags.
So can't see anything.
But it is just we're all trying our best, we just are. And I think this has been a common theme, I think, with this podcast, is giving yourself a break. Like for you, Jem, sometimes I'm like, oh, you're just wonderful, and it's okay that you had a break. And I wonder if we're just
cry. Don't make me cry on my podcast.
It's okay. But I wonder, I always ponder this thing of as women, are we giving ourselves an even worse time? Why are we doing that? I don't know if it's true, but I feel like maybe it is. Maybe we're all a bit oh, could be better at this, could be doing that, blah, 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 blah. And if that's somehow soaked into me growing up, I don't know. Something to think about.
I think the most important thing is, like we were talking about yesterday, to be authentic and just to do the best you can. And also, I think if you are honest and open, then, like Mina today, you are possibly, someone will hear this and will go, oh, do you know what? I also felt like there was no one who had the same kind of life as me. And you can be that person to someone, and that is just, even if it's one person, then that is
definitely
all worth it, isn't it? So
definitely, I think the thing, it's not an exaggeration to say that the community of women drummers on Instagram has absolutely made me who I am as a musician, as a professional, and as a person. It's really helped me to try and follow people who are also kind of doing a thing, and struggling for their thing, and getting through and having real conversations with people. And I've made some amazing friends through that community and Instagram. So it's a really positive force as well. But I think you just have to try and get past the feed and find the people and have conversations and try and set up projects with people, and work together. And I think that's where it's at. We're amazing. We are an amazing community for sure.
Here's a left field question. I'm wondering what your thoughts are on women only things. So like Hit Like a Girl is great.
Yeah.
I was partnering up with Paul E and part of that this year. Really enjoyed that. Excited about it. But I feel like Hit Like a Girl and doing women only drum camps or whatever, these things that have been put on, I feel in the past I thought, what, why doing that? Why is it just girl drummers, or why is it called Hit Like a Girl? This shouldn't be needed. It should all be equal. I'm a drummer. Don't call me a female drummer. I just am. You can't tell. However, as I've gotten older, I do see that maybe it is needed because it's not equal at the moment. And I wondered what your thoughts are on all of that.
Yeah, I have lots of thoughts on that. How long have we got? um, so I think on one level, right, are we drummers or are we women drummers? Like, we're drummers. We're all human beings. We're human beings who music. That's the most important thing. Absolutely, for sure. And I think that, I don't have the experience of a cis woman, like growing up and struggling with that stuff. But again and again and again in interviews, like, I hear sort of women drummers like bristling slightly when they get asked, is it, how do you feel about being sort of such a role model for women? And it's like, well, I don't necessarily want all of that. I didn't ask to be a representative. I'm just trying to musician out here, kind of thing. So I do think it's really, really important that we just get on and play music. But I feel a lot more comfortable in women-only spaces for things like making music and learning. There's a really good project in Sheffield at the moment called Key of She, which is like a women and sort of basically not men, not cis men, women and genderqueer folk getting together to just improvise, just make improvised music randomly every month. And that's really, really good. Because I think that we support each other in ways where if there's guys there, so often their conditioning will mean that they just take the floor more. They've got so much confidence often. And it can just be hard. It can just be harder to kind of, create the same kind of equal learning community. I also think as well, publicly, we think of projects like Hit Like a Girl and stuff, and that's great. And I think that I am hearing less sexism and stuff in industry conversations. Although you still hear guys talking about, all the guys who play drums and the girls as well, kind of thing. Always, they know they've got to remember now, but it still kind of annoys me that they need to describe drummers at all by their gender. But like, we don't see women being represented in the same degree in kind of endorsements. Like, I've been a big Meinl fan so far, and you have to wait like 6 months between videos of kind of like women endorsers playing Meinl videos. Yet Meinl are outputting 2 or 3 of these really slickly produced videos a week. And I know that there are women endorsing Meinl out there, but like, where are they on the rosters and things? So yeah, I think we need like these projects that just really, really push lots and lots of women through into the music industry, so that we're there in such numbers that we just literally can't be ignored anymore.
Yeah, I'm aware from the industry side, I'm aware that in the last couple of years, I've seen a lot more endorsers, that it is becoming more equal. But generally, also, I found that there are a lot more women on big gigs. Finally, after all this time,
Yes.
they're starting to come through, and it is a lot more equal. And I think it's a cycle. Like once, when you get more artists using more women in their bands or
Yeah.
in whatever way, not just bands, also crew and stuff, it's the whole industry, then it's going to change. And you do then also the companies say, well, this person plays for this person, and of course they take them on. And yeah, it is changing. I can see that from working there, but it's just taken a really long time.
Yeah.
Totally.
It seems like it's being pushed by musicians, doesn't it? I mean, folks like Harry Styles has got a really good
Yeah.
lineup with his drummer and bass player. Willow touring. I think Willow got a entirely women lineup when she was touring about a year ago. Yeah, it's just becoming much more, much less of a rarity to see a woman playing drums at the big stadium gigs, definitely.
It is. There's
But
something.
still, where are they? Where are they in the kind of conferences and endorsements? And there's still a gap.
I found on drum shows still,
Yeah,
it's definitely not 50-50, but hopefully we will get there.
Yeah, that's what I hope to see in the next few years, is a lot more women at drum shows and
yeah.
like clinic tours and things like that. Bring it on.
Do you follow Madame Gandhi?
Yes.
Because you should. She's amazing, especially at saying, like, let's just stop worrying about playing the game to get included. Let's just make our own completely separate game. Let's make our own projects. Let's make our own conferences, our own spaces. And I mean, that's worked for me. That's, the band I'm in, I picked the people I work with. I haven't yet had to go out into the real music industry and bump up against any of this stuff, because I've just made it myself, I suppose. Built it around what I want to do and who I want to work with. And
I think that's super inspiring. I do. I think that is the way forward, actually. It's like, why wait? Why wait for someone to go, oh, of course, it's
yeah,
Kira, or it's Mina, or it's Gemma. Do it yourself.
exactly.
Create it.
Like the barriers to entry for this stuff have never been so low. It's very, very easy for any of us to start musical projects and publish things. And, we don't need the same infrastructure and the same power structures that we used to. So, yeah, let's do it.
You just need the time. That's the only
Just
thing.
the time.
Time is the issue.
Definitely a drummer joke there. But who's hired?
I mean, we ought to be good at time, right?
But we're not. Oh, well, thank you so much. This has just been inspiring and just fascinating. And thank you for being so open and talking about all that you have. And I think it's going to help a lot of people.
Oh, thank you for all you do. I really love being part of this community of amazing women playing drums. It's great. Yay!
Good luck with all your band things as well. And
Thank you.
let us know when you're on your stadium tour. We'll come along.
Sure. Will do.
Guest list.
Don't hold your breath, but I'll do my best.
Thank you so much for tuning in. Please do share it if you feel anyone will benefit from this. And we look forward to seeing you again really soon. Take care.